long time, people have been asking me to like keep a blog, and I really want to, and I think that I have a lot of experiences that would lend themselves well to blogging. But I love to write, I enjoy it, but I cannot keep up with it for the life of me. I have a short attention span, I can't keep up with it. Plus, I think that a lot of like my stories translate better through words. So somebody said, why don't you make a vlog, which is like a video blog? And I think that's a great idea. So I'm going to try. That's the operative word, is try. But I had an experience not too long ago that I think warranted my first vlog post. So I don't even know where to start. Okay. If you know me, you know that about 5 months ago now-ish, my boyfriend and I of 7+ years broke up. And prior to that, I was dating somebody else for 2.5 years. So I'm 25, and basically the last time I was single, I was 14. Or 15 really. So it's been 10 years since I have been single, which basically translates to I have no idea how to talk to anybody of the opposite sex because I've always been in a relationship. So this new single life hit me, and I realized that I needed to learn how to interact with males in a relationship-esque dating way, which was like total news to me. So I took some time, I settled myself down, and I always said I would never online date. I would never be that person. And even now, just talking about it, I like get a little anxiety because I just never thought I would do it. But I think that it is exactly what I needed, truth be told. And I don't want to get off on some crazy rampage about that. But anyway, whatever. So I started online dating. And I have plenty of wonderful dates to talk about. But one in particular that I had a few weeks ago really sparked this necessity of a vlog. And the people I told were kind of like, you have to tell this story. So I'm going to. So let me preface it with the fact that like I am semi-okay with the fact that I online date, but I'm not particularly like proud of it. Like I don't post it for the world to see. Anyway, okay, I'm getting off topic again. Okay, so anyway, I started talking to a guy, and I was a PE major in college. He was a PE major. He ran track in college. I played volleyball. Just a lot of like interesting little, points of conversation. Seemed really funny, made me laugh through our conversation. And we kind of went like the back and forth messages, like he sent one, I sent one, all in like one day. So we were going back and forth. I was enjoying it. He was relatively cute, whatever. It was all good. And then my data was running low. And so I was like, listen, I don't normally like give out my number this fast, and I don't. But my data's running low, and I want to keep talking to you, so can we text? So anyway, we start texting. Everything's great. Everything's good. And I was like, so what are you doing this weekend? And he was like, I was supposed to go see a concert, but the person I was supposed to go with ended up like having to bail on me, and I don't know if I'm going to go now. I really want to go, but I don't know anyone to go with. So I was like, put the tickets on Craigslist, put them on Facebook, like ask around, whatever, just like conversational stuff. And we kept talking about it, and I started to kind of like get the impression that he wanted me to go, but I didn't want to like invite myself. I didn't want to put words in his mouth, so I didn't say anything. So we kept talking about these tickets for a couple hours or whatever. And we'd only been talking for like a day or two. It was really new. And then so finally he texted me. He's like, listen, I know this is going to probably sound really weird and creepy because we've just been talking, but would you want to go with me? And it was Rascal Flatts, Gloriana, and Sheryl Crow. And I was like, yeah, that's awesome. Like, I would totally love to go. So I was pumped. So we made plans to go. We spoke the entire next day, texted all day. It was like 2 days later. And I was under the impression that he like had a ticket for me, but then he like texted me and he's like, oh, make sure you buy your ticket. And I was like, I just thought he had one. But anyway, it was like $20, so I ended up buying it because it was like lawn seating, and it was fine. So I bought the ticket. We made plans to meet up. And so I was pumped. Like, I really wanted to see them. I was excited to meet him, and I figured, like, worst comes to worst, even if we don't hit it off, we'll have a decent time. Like, he's a funny guy. It'll be a good night. We'll listen to some music, and he even said that. He's like, even if it sucks, the music will be good, and we'll, it'll be fine. So I was like, I totally agree with you. Didn't seem creepy. I get ready, I'm pumped, I'm, rocking out in my room to Sheryl Crow pre-concert, whatever. We drive separately, I get there, I'm texting him, we meet up. We had to stand in separate lines because they pat you down. So we were kind of like separated, but we were still like texting. We were joking around. I mean, like he was making me laugh. It was good. He was cute. Everything was awesome. So we get in, and I had said to him before, I'm like, it's an outdoor concert. We're going to be on the lawn. Like, do you have a blanket to bring? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, well, I have like a cool blanket. It's probably, bigger than the one you have. And it's a really cool conversation piece because my grandma made it. It has all shirts from like me growing up, whatever. So I bring the blanket. And so we're sitting on the blanket. We're hanging out. We're chatting. And he starts kind of like saying some stuff, which I won't really get into detail. It doesn't really matter. But it was kind of stuff that I was like, like, I don't think I'll see you again. It was just kind of like alarming stuff that I just didn't think that we would match. But it wasn't so bad that I was like, I have to leave. It was just like, I probably won't see you again. But it was fine. He was nice, making me laugh, whatever. So we're sitting on the blanket, whatever. And then he's like, I haven't eaten all day. I'm starving. I'm going to go get something to eat and a drink. Do you want anything? And I was like, no, I'm good. So he goes and go gets a drink. He comes back and he's got one of those 26-ounce strawberry drinks or whatever. And I was like, I thought you were going to eat. And he was like, oh yeah, I got a burger, but I ate it when I was like waiting in line for the drink. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever, and I also hadn't really eaten a lot that day either. But anyway, so we're sitting there, he's drinking his beer, he's, we're talking, everything's good. And then I was like, I have to go to the bathroom and I'm going to get a drink. Do you want another one? And he was like, yeah, I'll take another one. So I go, I get the same thing, strawberry burrito, whatever the fuck it was. And I get him one. So now we're sitting there. He's drinking his second. I'm drinking my first. Concert's on. We're having fun. He is like, I'm going to go get one. Do you want one? No, I'm good. Okay, so he goes, comes back. Now he's drinking his third, and I'm finishing up my first. And beer hits me really hard. I don't know what, I could drink 10 mixed drinks and be fine. But something about beer and on an empty stomach, like, I was buzzed. Not drunk, just buzzed. So he's starting to get drunk. And he even says it to me. He's like, oh, I'm kind of getting a little drunk or whatever. I'm like, oh, whatever. Who cares? We're at a concert. We're having fun. It's a good time. Then he's like, I'm going to go get another one. Do you want one? And I was like, sure. Whatever. So he leaves and he comes back with a drink for me and a drink for him. So now he's on his fourth and I'm drinking my second. And I'm buzzed and he's getting drunk. Now, right about this time, Rascal Flatts comes on. And, we're Snapchatting videos. It's fine. It's fun. I'm having a good time. So Rascal Flatts gets on and we stand up and he's drunk and I'm just buzzed enough to not really give a shit what I'm really doing. So we stand up, we're like, we're dancing, we're like singing into our beers, we're doing the whole thing, we're having a blast, right? People around us just standing up, it's a good time, we're fist bumping. Anyway, so we got about 10 minutes of that, and he leans into me and he's like, hey, I'm gonna sit down for a minute. I'm like, okay. So he sits, and then I'm like, well, I'm not gonna just stand, and then he's sitting. So I was like, I'll just sit with him. So I sit down with him. And we're, whatever. And I'm like, hey, music's so loud. People all around us on the lawn. And I'm like, are you okay? And he's like, yeah, I'm totally fine. I just need a break. That beer kind of just hit me a little bit. I'm like, okay, you're good. Okay, whatever. Not worried. Whatever. So 5-10 minutes goes by. He's still sitting. And I lean over to him again. I'm like, you sure you're okay? He's like, yeah, I'm all right. I just need a break. I'm like, do you want me to get you some water? He's like, no, I'm totally fine. Okay. I'm not your fucking mom, whatever. So, whatever, so I think about it. So another 10 minutes goes by. I'm sitting next to him, and he looks like death. And I'm like, okay. So I lean in again. I'm like, listen, do you want to leave? He's like, yeah, no, I'm not feeling so good. I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's get up. Let's leave. And he's like, give me a minute. I can't really stand right now. I'm like, okay, let me know when you can stand. We'll go. It's not a big deal. It's fine. Now, the music's really loud, and I can tell he's struggling. Well, another minute goes by, I look over, and now he's gone from, like, sitting back to, like, legs open, like, hands on his head, like this. And at this point, I realize that we're in rough shape. So I lean over again. I'm like, are you okay? He's like, yeah. I'm like, we got to go. You got to get out of here. And he's like, I can't stand up. 30 seconds goes by, all of a sudden... barfs all over my blanket. Okay, there is like nothing salvageable in the region that he's on. All over the grass, all over my blanket, and I'm like, oh my God. Now, I'm relatively buzzed, but when something like that happens, you sober up really fast. So at this point, I'm like, I know what's going on. Barf's all over. I'm like, oh my God. Now, the social worker in me kicks in. I don't realize how nice I am. So I lean over to him like, okay, you're okay. I'm trying to calm him down. And, he's already like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. I'm so sorry. It just hit me. Okay, barf everywhere. So I'm like, okay, you're okay. We're going to get you out of here. Like, when you feel okay to stand up, let me know. We're going to go. He's like, whatever. So the music's bumping. He's struggle bussing big time. So I have one hand, like, on his back. Like, I'm like, is it okay if I touch you? He's like, yeah. So I'm, like, kind of, like, rubbing his back. I'm like, it's all right. You're okay. Super nice, sober Gianna. And so one hand's on his back and my other hand's like covering his ear because it's so loud and it must be awful to be that wasted and have music bumping. He's got one hand covering his other ear. I got one hand on his back and the other ear. And now I'm kind of laughing at myself. I'm like, this is great. Like our first date. Like this is wonderful. So about 10 minutes goes by. I'm trying to get him relaxed, trying to get him, just enough sober so that I can get him out of the place. And then he looks wobbly again. And I'm like, oh my God. All of a sudden, I'm sitting here and he's on my left. He falls over. He's a big guy. He's probably like 6'1" and relatively buff. Not huge, but relatively buff. Falls over on top of me. Okay. And barfs on my side. Now he's laying on me heaving. Now he barfs all over my side of the blanket, all over my jeans, and he's laying on me, so I feel his stomach like, and I'm like, oh my God. So I have one hand on his back and I'm like, it's okay, you're all right, like we're okay, barfs all over me. Now I think the most offensive part is he ate a cheeseburger before this is what he's throwing up. Barf is disgusting in general, but now you take regurgitated cheeseburger on my jeans as a vegetarian, and I was horrified. But again, you just kind of like get into like, I'm gonna help you mode. So he's laying on my side, barfs all over me, all over my jeans, the blanket, whatever. Now he's laying on me and he's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I'm so embarrassed. I'm like, it's okay. So people are starting to take note now, and they're like looking at me, and I'm like, oh, it's okay, it's our first date, because I have to make a joke of it because I'm gonna go crazy. So this girl in front of me is like, hey, is he okay? I'm like, yeah, he's just really drunk, it just hit him really hard. She's like, all right, do you want some water? I'm like, yeah. So she gives me a water bottle. She's like, I'm a nurse. I'm like, I'm a social worker. So we start like bonding over that. And I'm like, okay, I'm talking to him. I'm like, we got to get you out of here. We have to leave. Like, you're shot. He's like, I can't stand up. I'm way too nauseous. I can't stand up. He kept saying, I know my limits. I'm like, well, obviously not. So he's thrown up all over me. People are taking note. I'm just trying to relax him. I'm trying to cover his ears. I'm trying to drink, give him water. He's still barfing. I have never seen this much barf. So he's laying on me for probably like a solid like 20-30 minutes, and there's like nothing I can do. So like this big 6-something man is laying on me, and I'm just like, Rascal Flats, like this is awesome. So eventually the concert ends and people are starting to clear off of the lawn. Now everyone is walking by us like staring, and I'm just like, it's fine, it's a first date. He's done. I mean, he's like awake, he's not passed out, but he is beyond help right now. So the lawn completely clears out. There's barf everywhere. He's still laying on me. And security comes over. And they're like, is he okay? I'm like, yeah, he's fine. He's just really drunk. I'm going to try to get him out of here. They're like, okay, it's fine. I was like, just give me 10 minutes. Okay. So I'm talking to him. I'm like, listen, we have to get up. Like, we have to leave. I can't stand up. I'm so nauseous. You have no idea. I can't. I'm like, okay. So lawn's empty. Everyone's gone. Just laying on me. Security comes over again. They're like, what's up? I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm going to get him up. Give me 5 more minutes. They're like, okay, well, we can give you 5 more minutes, but if you can't get him up in 5 minutes, we have to have medical come over. And I'm like, okay, great. 5 minutes goes by. I'm like, hey, we got to go. I can't stand up. Okay. Security comes back over. They're like, I'm like, I can't get him up. They pick him up, like hoist him up, like under his arms. I am covered in barf. My blanket's covered in barf. Nothing I can do. Oh my God. The worst part, after he threw up the first time, before he fell on me, he barfed. He was profusely barfed, and then took my blanket and blew his nose in it. Now, the barf was gross enough, but something about the snot really just set me off. But at this point, the blanket was so fucked, the whole situation was so fucked that it didn't really matter. So he blew his nose in my blanket. Anyway, so security comes and picks him up, hoist him up. They're like carrying him, like arms underneath, to the medical tent. Now I'm following him. At this point, by the way, it's probably like 11:30 at night. I'm really tired. Now, I live an hour away from where the concert was. So they take him to the bathroom, they help him pee, I go to the bathroom, and we take him over to the medical tent. Everyone's gone. We're at the medical tent. And there's a couple of like medics, they bring him over and they basically like throw him they throw him in this like beach chair. So it's pretty low to the ground. So he's sitting in the beach chair and he's like slumped over and he's still throwing up like between his legs. And so I'm like, okay, I get him more water. Now I'm thirsty, so I get a Gatorade for myself. I'm talking to the medical staff. There's another girl there who told me she was 23. I don't believe her for a second. She couldn't have been older than like 18. And her friends totally left her, and she's wasted. She's throwing up all over herself. It's in her hair. She's crying. She's like, I ruined the night. And nobody's talking to her, right? Because medical staff deals with this every single day. So I go over to her. I'm like, okay, like, you're okay. What's up? Where are your friends? I don't know. They hate me. And I'm like, all right. So I tie her hair back, right? Now it's pretty cold, and Drunky McDrunk Pants over there has my blanket. So I say to the medical staff, like, do you guys have a blanket for this half-naked girl who's shaking? They were like, no. I'm like, okay. So I give her my sweater, which she subsequently barfs on. So now I'm just covered. I might as well just roll in it at this point. So she's crying, and I give her my sweater, and I go back over to Drunky Drunk, date of mine, and he's still throwing up. So I'm rubbing his back. I'm, trying to keep him relaxed. I get up. I go talk to medical. I mean, we probably at this point 45 minutes. So it's, it's 12:30 at this point. And I'm talking to medical staff. This is the best part. And they're like, why don't you just leave him? I'm like, I can't leave him. Like, I don't even know his last name. I don't know what he drives. He lives an hour away. I don't know who to call for him. Like, if I leave, what is he going to do? He's basically unconscious. So I'm talking to them, and all of a sudden I hear like, and I'm like, and they're like, hey, your friend fell over. And I turn around, and he has completely fallen over into his own barf, okay? He's sideways in barf. His face is in barf, but he's still in the chair, and he's still holding onto the handle. So he's completely sideways in the chair. And I'm like, oh my God. So they don't want anything to do with him. They're laughing their asses off. So I walk over and like pick him up, and I'm like, you gotta sit up. He's like, why? I fell. I'm like, yeah, you fell into your own barf. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah. He's covered, okay? Drunk girl's friend comes, starts yelling at her, so I'm trying to like crisis intervention them. Finally, they leave or whatever. I take my vomit sweater back, and at this point, it's like we've reached like 1 o'clock. And he is still passed out. He is beyond help. So medical staff says to me, what are you going to do with him? I'm like, I have no idea. Like, I have no clue. And they were like, well, we're only here because he's here and we want to go home. And I'm like, okay. So I go over and I'm like, what should we do for you? He's like, I don't know, man. I'm so nauseous. I'm like, okay. So I feel bad that they're still there. So I'm like, okay, let's go get my car. I don't know what he drives. I have all this stuff at this point. His hat, his keys, his wallet, his phone, everything. So medical staff takes me in their little cart to go get my car. I pull my car over. And I'm like, well, he's just got to get in my car. Like, there's nothing else I can do at this point for him. So we hoist him up. We open my car door. He stands outside of my car and barfs. Okay, like just before getting in my car. I throw him in the passenger seat. I get in the driver's seat. I like roll down the window. I'm like, I am still so nice to him. Like, I am shocked at how nice I was. So he gets in my car and I'm like, I don't know what to do with you. So I pull it into like a lighted part in the parking lot. I turn my car off and I'm like, well, we're just going to sit. And he's like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. He's got the window down. He's throwing up out the window still. I mean, he barfed for like hours. It was ridiculous. So I lean my chair back in my car and I just hanging. And we probably sat there for like 30 minutes. And eventually I was like, what am I going to do with you? Like, you can't drive. And I was like, who can we call for you? You know, can we call your parents? He's like, yeah, we got to call my parents. So I'm like, all right. So give him his phone. He calls his dad. He rings his dad. He's like, Dad, I'm really drunk right now. I just want to be honest with you. I drank way too much. I don't know what to do. What do you think is best to do in this situation? And then his dad starts talking, and he like half passes out. So I take the phone, and I'm like, hi, my name is Gianna. I'm your son's date tonight, and he's in my car, and he's wasted, and he threw up all over me and himself. I don't know what to do with him. And they were like, well, you know, we're not going to come get him, so can you just get him a hotel? And I'm like, yeah. So hang up with Dad. I'm like, I'll let you know when we're done. I get my GPS out. I find the nearest hotel. We drive to the nearest hotel. I go in with his wallet. I reserve a room. I finally get him up. He walks from the car to the hotel the whole time with his hands on his knees, like slumped over like this, like little baby steps. I finally get him up to the room. I close the door. I'm looking at him. He's covered in barf. Like, covered. And I'm like, I even said to him, I'm like, what do I do with you? Like, do you have other clothes? Of course you don't have other clothes. Do I have other clothes? No, I don't have other clothes. There's nothing for me to do. I'm like, okay, do I like take your clothes off and like put you to bed? Like, do you sleep? Do I shower you? You sleep in barf clothes? He basically fell into bed. There was nothing I could really do. He also almost gave himself a concussion trying to get a drink out of the sink. Like, almost like slammed his head into the faucet. So I got him a drink. He falls into bed. There's 2 beds in the room. I am shot. I am exhausted. So I lay in the other bed. And at this point, he's like mildly sobering up, at least enough to know the situation. So he's like laying in bed and he's like, he goes to me, I take it you don't want a goodnight kiss. And I was like, no, I don't at all want a goodnight kiss. So I stayed for a little while. I laid in bed. I was going to try to fall asleep and then get up and leave in the morning. Plus, I didn't know if he was going to asphyxiate on his own vomit. So I laid in bed for like 10 or 15 minutes. My phone was dying. I realized there was no way I was falling asleep. So I wrote him a note and I was like, hey, you know, can you just text me in the morning to let me know that like you're alive and that you like got home safe? You know, drink lots of water and Gatorade, and I'll talk to you later. Let me sign my name. And then I packed up my stuff and I left. So I went home. Next morning rolls around. I'm like hoping that he's alive. The blanket was in my trunk, which for the record, this happened a few weeks ago, sat in my trunk for over a week in the hot summer because I refused to touch it. But it's washed now and it's safe. So anyway, I don't hear from him all morning. At like 3 o'clock I text him. Or no, in the morning I didn't hear from him. So I called the venue and I was like, hey, I don't know what kind of car is there, but like please don't tow it. Which they didn't answer, which whatever. And then I didn't hear from him, so I called the hotel to make sure he checked out because I wanted to make sure he didn't fucking die in the room. And they were like, yes, he checked out. I'm like, okay, great. So about 3 o'clock I text him and I'm like, hey, you know, are you okay? I just want to know that like you're alive. To which he texts me back and he says, oops, what was our conversation before? Hey, I woke up about 8 and I was able to get a cab back to my car. I got back to my town around 10 o'clock. I had some food, which I needed a lot of, and I've been asleep since 10:20. I'm incredibly sorry for getting super drunk like that. Hard alcohol on an empty stomach clearly do not go together. Really? You just figured that out? You're fucking 26 years old. I really appreciate you staying and making sure I was okay and doing everything you did for me. And I said, hey, okay, good. I was worried they would tow your car or something. I'm happy they didn't. Alrighty, yeah, you must be hurting. Haha, but I'm glad you got home safe and you got some food and sleep. Did you have all of your stuff? And he said, I was the only car left in the lot. All of my stuff was with me or in my car. I'm hurting, but not as bad as before. I feel like a really big asshole, and I truly appreciate what you did for me. I'm honestly incredibly sorry. And I said, good. I called him this morning. I asked him not to tow your car, but I wasn't even sure what you drove. So I was pretty much like, just leave all the cars there, please. It's all good. Everyone's been there before. You're welcome. For the record, you apologized at least 75 times last night, too. I'm glad you're feeling better. And I never heard from him again. So that was my first date. I know what you're all wondering, and the answer to the question is yes. Of course, I took pictures, so I will show them. I'm not sure how good they'll translate on the screen, but here's us, here's the first aid tent where we were hanging. Here's my blanket and him barfing between his legs in the first aid tent. Of course, I had to take a selfie. Here's me being really excited about it. Again, barfing between his legs. And again, with my hand on his knee, barfing between his legs. And then this was him barfing before getting into my vehicle. And then this is him barfing out of my vehicle. You can't really see, but like that's his head, and then obviously it's the door. So that was my first date. This dating thing has been incredibly entertaining. I can't even say that I'm mad this happened. I mean, it sucked to have to pay for a concert and to stay out that late and get barfed on, but it makes for a great story, and I take everything in stride. So that was my first date. I'd love to hear if your date could top my first date. No, I won't be seeing him again, and I genuinely hope that he doesn't do that again, because I don't think a lot of people would have stayed with him. But anyway, so that's my first vlog. I'm sorry that it was 26 minutes. If you stuck through it, that's really impressive. So, okay, I will try to do more. I have so many good first dates. Okay, bye.